Hello, my name is Dr. Carrie Schlachter. This is Dr. Melanie Tissier, and this is Linus. And we are all here today in Petaluma, California at Circle Oak Equine to talk to you about how to get an excellent image on ultrasound. For this next section of video, we're going to be talking about how to prepare a horse's body for ultrasound in situations where you possibly can't clip, or we can only possibly clip with a 10 blade, and then we'll go ahead and show you how to prepare a leg that's been clipped with a 40 blade in order to get the best possible ultrasound image. And the tools that we're going to be using are a good quality ultrasound machine. We're going to be using a standoff for some situations. We're going to be using ultrasound gel. Also, we're going to be using rubbing alcohol in either a spray bottle, or you can use it in a pour bottle as well. And then, most importantly, we're going to be using a bucket full of warm water with a little bit of chlorhexidine soap and solution in it, and a rag. I found that the rag does a much better job than roll cotton because the roll cotton tends to leave a little bit of debris behind when you're scrubbing it on a leg. So you can imagine that with all this hair, that we also have a lot of debris that gets caught up underneath it. So we're going to give it a really good quality scrub in the area of the ultrasound. In fact, expanding beyond the area of the ultrasound that we're going to do. It's really important you don't use too much sudsy soap in scrubbing, especially with hair on, because the sudsy soap will get, the air bubbles will get caught underneath the hair, and that'll prevent your image from being a good quality image. So a lot of times while I'm scrubbing, at the end of the scrub, I'll wipe downward, wipe with the hair as I go. The next step in the process is to go ahead and take ultrasound gel and put it on the area of interest. Put the ultrasound gel on going against the grain of the hair. And that will work the ultrasound gel up into and in between the hair. And that will oftentimes help, again, by filling in all the little air bubbles and air gaps that are in that area. And then the last thing I'll use is once I'm ultrasounding actively, I'll use alcohol on the leg to try and to fill in any of the little gaps that are left. So then we'll go ahead and start our scan with just the gel on. Oftentimes I'm scanning without a standoff when I'm scanning an unclipped leg. I find you get a much better image in that situation. I will also label the unclipped situation so that we know that I was scanning the images unclipped for their record. I'll just go ahead and spray some alcohol onto the area and see if that improves my image at all. I find if I have good preparation, I don't use a standoff in the lower legs, and I have a good quality machine, I can often get by with very little difference in my gain than I would need in a clipped situation. And then I would go ahead and scan the leg. And now we're going to talk about how to best prepare a leg to get a good quality image that's been clipped with a 10 blade. So when I'm clipping, I like to clip as wide an area as possible so that I know that I can clean that area even better, and so that if my probe slides out of the area of interest that I'm ultrasounding, it doesn't slide into a dirty area. And so that leaves just a short amount of hair on their legs, and while that certainly can decrease image quality in a lot of situations, if you're able to image what you're looking at without a standoff, I actually feel like it can increase image quality in a lot of situations, because the 10 blade leaves just enough hair to create enough room for the gel to sit in it and act as a little bit of its own standoff. So after I've clipped an area with a 10 blade, then I go ahead and scrub it really well to get rid of all of the dirt and the debris and hair from the clipping. And again, I'll scrub outside of my clipped area to make sure that I'm not going to drag any of the dirt and the debris into the clipped area, which will decrease image quality again. And then I'm going to use the same method that I used when I had hair on the leg. I'm going to put gel on against the grain of the hair. And that's going to help fill in all of the gaps in between the hair and the skin. So I'll put the gel on going against the grain, and then going with the grain, and then going against the grain, until it fills in the whole area and becomes a nice film of gel over the surface of the skin. And then some of these guys I do scan with a standoff, some I scan without. It just depends on the actual image quality. So I'll go ahead at this point and put my probe on the leg and see what the level of image quality I'll get is. I'll adjust my depth and my gain. I do like to label that it's only been clipped with a 10 blade, just like I would label it if it was unclipped. And then again, I will check it at that situation with the alcohol as well. And so again, in this situation, I may go ahead and just put the standoff on and see if that improves my image quality at all. He's giving us a very acceptable image, actually. And so even with just a 10 blade, we're getting a very diagnostic image. And then in the next section, we'll talk about how to go about preparing an area for really good image quality using a 40 blade. In the ideal situation, you're going to be able to clip with a 40 blade and take off as much hair as is possible in the area of interest. That's what we're going to go ahead and do next, is take off as much hair as is possible, and then we're going to talk about some tips as to how to get the best image quality in the ideal situation. So once we've gone ahead and clipped, then the next goal is to get the area as clean as we can, to get as much debris and dirt off the area as is possible. So again, I'm going to scrub using warm water, a little bit of dilute chlorhexidine, soap and solution, and a rag to go ahead and clean the area as best as possible. Again, I like to scrub not only the area that I've clipped, but the area surrounding it so that the dirt doesn't bleed into my ultrasound location and decrease the image quality. We go ahead and start with some gel on the leg and on the probe without a standoff. I put a thin coating of gel on the leg in the clipped area and right to the outside edge of the clipped area. And then I use a little bit of gel on the end of the probe as well. And then I go ahead and assess image quality. Turn the gain up and down, get my depth set. Then I might continue on and scan, or at that point I'll go ahead and assess what the image looks like with a standoff. The object of interest should be as close to the center of the screen as you can get it. And so a standoff helps you move the superficial structures closer to the center of the screen. And you're going to get your best imaging at the center of your screen. The other reason to use a standoff is because horses' lower limbs don't have a lot of soft tissue. They're very tendinous and bony. And so that means that you're putting a hard structure against a hard structure. And that means that your image that you get is very narrow. You can use a standoff to widen that image field just a little bit by using pressure and having it wrap around the edges of the structure. And so you can get much better image quality, a much wider view of image. When I'm using a standoff, I rarely use alcohol in combination with the standoff. I find that the rubbing alcohol over time dries out the standoffs. As well, I find that it doesn't add anything to the image quality when I'm using alcohol and a standoff. If I'm starting to lose image quality, I'll either add more gel or I'll rewash the leg and get rid of the gel that's on it and then start anew with fresh gel. And then in that type of situation, I get the best image possible. Thank you for watching the video. This is Dr. Carrie Schlachter, Dr. Melanie Tissier, and Linus, telling you that for more information, please go to sonosite.com/veterinary.